going back to the beginning of the group, was longevity even a factor in your mind, or was it just we're doing what we're doing now until the wheels fall off type of vibe?
Yeah, I'm kind of a funny bird because I'm always expecting things to end. I'm a bit of a, especially with the music business, because the
Right.
music, I was always told, that was just a far-fetched dream.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, we get to make a record together. Great. I had no idea that there'd be this kind of legacy,
Yeah.
just because I knew the nature of the business. The odds of
Yeah.
being successful are slim to none. So I've been pleasantly surprised.
Was that something that was often said around you? Because I mean, obviously a family can be very loving and supportive, but they also want to protect you. So like, was it mostly that you were hearing maybe you should look at other options? This probably won't work at the level it ended up working. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of taught to have realistic expectations. I remember being in the car, and when I was really young, you're like 10 years old and you're like, oh, I want to, be a sports guy. I want to play baseball. Or your
right.
parents are, well, son, you should have realistic expectations. Maybe you should try and be a photographer for the sports team.
Right,
That was the
exactly. One of
kind
the
of
guys on the
conversation.
side.
That is exactly what I was kind of not beating in my head, but it was presented that maybe you
Yeah.
should consider that. Now they also knew I was a pretty small kid, so
Mm.
that a lot of those delusions of grandeur as a sports guy was not going to
Maybe an
happen.
astronaut or something would have been more up the alley. At least for me, it was.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I would have taken that. I would love to be an astronaut.
Pretty cool.
But yeah, right. But I think that yeah, the because it was always that laid out for me to be realistic.
Mhm.
The idea of being a recording artist was definitely didn't fit in that realm. So I've been very surprised with how life has turned out. But I think I was telling somebody this earlier. I think I was just too dumb to know when to quit. Really, I just
Mm.
couldn't imagine doing anything else.
That's
Anytime
part of it, though, for any creative.
absolutely,
You know what I
absolutely,
mean? I mean,
yeah.
that's fascinating to me. So, how exactly did a young Miles combat that when you made the choice? Okay, I want this to be my business. Was it a factor of tuning people out, or was there a convincing people around you element?
Well, there's a big convincing me. That was the big
Okay,
issues.
yeah,
I loved it. Look, I was just when I started playing guitar, it was like I found my special purpose.
right,
It
100%.
was like I just loved it. I was obsessed with it, and still am. But I also, because of all those the kind of the confines of realism
Mhm.
and being told, well, it's going to be this, it's probably going to be this way. It was hard to break out of that psychology and
Yeah,
accept the fact that this thing that I loved, that I could perhaps really try and do something with it and express myself through that. And okay, I don't want to make it sound like my parents weren't supportive, because they were extremely supportive. In fact,
right.
frankly, I wouldn't be playing music if it wasn't for my mom, because she's the person who kind of nudged me to start playing trumpet when I was 9 or 10
Okay.
years old. So that's been wonderful. But I think just the idea of, especially where I live in Spokane, Washington, and
Mm.
other than like Bing Crosby,
Right.
that we're not really known as being a music mecca. But yeah, I was too dumb to know when to quit, and I loved it.